I'm sorry it's been so long. I'm trying so hard to be better about filming videos and getting them out to you faster than 2 weeks. With the holidays and with work, it's just been very stressful on me, so I haven't had time to sit down and make a video. And with the time it takes me to film and edit, I just don't have time to pre-film right now. But that is in my resolutions for the new year, is to get better about doing YouTube videos. So thank you for sticking around. Please bear with me. It's gonna get better as we go. So I know this video is gonna be late, but better late than never. It's still coming in before January, so that's good. And this is gonna be my favorite books of 2022, the best books I read this year. So I have 6 books to talk about today, and a lot more nice things to say than I did in my last video. These are in no particular order. These are just books that I enjoyed reading this year that were my favorite of the bunch. And no surprise here, they are all horror related or have some elements of horror in them. So love that for me. The first book we're going to talk about is Pen Pal by Dathan Araback, and I think I'm saying that right. And this one was such a difficult read because this one felt like reading something very true crime, and it felt like you knew the person it was happening to. It felt like something you have heard about before. It was just one of those books that really like buries itself deep inside of you. And in Pen Pal, we are following an unnamed narrator who is trying to piece together parts of his childhood that he doesn't quite remember, and he is telling us his story in flashback. So each chapter is a different flashback and a different age that he's at, where he's trying to put together this strange these strange events that happened to him when he was between the ages of 5 and 12. And each chapter gets progressively more and more unsettling, and as each chapter ends, you start to figure out what is happening, and you are in this state of dread because you as the reader understand what's going on, but the author doesn't quite understand what's going on, and you are helpless to stop it. And it is just one of those books that hits you like a truck. I was in tears at the end of this book. I was so very upset by this book. It was just so hard to read. It broke my heart, and it is genuinely gut-wrenching and terrifying. I will say that it does deal with children, abuse of children, sexual abuse of children, but the sexual abuse is not necessarily described. It's more implied, which I felt good about. I don't want to read about those things. And then it also deals with murder. So those are some trigger warnings to be mindful of. But this was such a powerful, moving book that will stick with me for a very long time. So it was absolutely one of my favorite reads of 22 and probably of 2022, and probably one of my favorite reads ever. This is a terrifying book, and it felt so real. So I highly suggest this one. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is another book that punched me right in the fucking face. And I think about this book like every day. No joke. Like at some point during my day, every day since I've read this book, I'm like, God damn, like this book has stuck with me. And that is Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. This was like my first foray into what's called extreme horror, which is like very graphic, violent horror. And I would say that this is on even the lower end of the graphic horror, because I've read some other extreme horrors that I feel are a lot more graphic than this one. However, this book, there's so much that you don't see coming in this book, and it's such a mix of supernatural horror and real life horror that it just deeply affected me. In this book, we are following a woman named Lori, and Lori is a serial killer groupie. She is a woman who has been in contact with several serial killers over the last decade, but she, within the last year, has been exclusively talking to a serial killer named Edmund Cox. And Edmund Cox has gone to prison for brutally murdering over 15 women, I believe, or maybe 17 women of Asian descent. And we are following Lori in her quest to prove to Edmund that she should be his number one girl, that she loves him the most, and this kind of sad love affair that they have. And Edmund tells Lori that if she goes to his cabin in the woods and retrieves a key for him and brings it to the Riverman, they will be able to be together and he won't have to be in prison and they can live happily ever after. So Lori decides to take her sister with her, but her sister is mentally handicapped, and she is taking her along to go on this journey to see the Riverman. This story is fucking wild, y'all. And like I said, I want to dedicate a whole video to it, so I'm not going to ramble too much here, but this book is fucking insane. First of all, Lori can get bent. She's one of my most hated characters ever. She's the fucking worst kind of character. And Christopher Triano writes her in a way that you really don't like her, so he's like not making her a sympathetic character at all, okay? Her sister Allie, though, love her. Salt of the earth. Best fucking one of my favorite characters ever also. She's just a great protagonist to this story and really gives Lori a lot of grace that she doesn't deserve. But Lori is taking her on this quest to find the Riverman, and the thing is, we don't know who the Riverman is. We don't know what any of this means. We're all just going on the journey together. And throughout this journey, we start to learn about this family. We start to learn about how Lori became the type of woman she is. We learn about how her sister became disabled. We learn about their family, and we learn about Edmund and how he became the person that he is. And then it all culminates in this insane climax that you just don't see coming. And this is one of those books too, like the last paragraph of the book and like the last sentence of the book where you're like, this book blew my mind. It was like absolutely terrifying. It made me so angry. There are parts in this that are so hard to read and so hard to digest. They are absolutely awful, and you hate some of these characters so viscerally. And then the ending is just like, out of all of these books, I think this is the book. This is not a, this is the thing though, okay, it's not a wide recommendation because this is not a book for everybody, but this is the book I want everyone to read. So this book has changed me, and it is an incredible read. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. My next favorite book of 2022 was a book that I did not expect to like at all, much less love, but it was an absolute 5-star read for me, and I just had so much fun with it, and that is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. And this book is a fantasy, crime, noir, drama, horror. I mean, it falls into so many categories, and that's why I really loved it. So in this book, we are following a magical detective who has magical powers, and she has sold her soul to the devil in order to save her brother's life. And her time on Earth is coming up, and she's about to have to give up her soul and go to hell. But before she does that, she is recruited to do one more job, and if she can pull this job off, she will get her soul back and she will be able to spend the rest of her life with the woman that she loves. So we are following her on this journey through Chicago, trying to track this serial killer called the White Vampire. What is his name? White City Vampire. So we are following her, trying to track him down, and we are tangled up in her complicated relationship with her brother. We are following her beautiful relationship with her girlfriend, and this is in the 1930s, so obviously their love is not approved of, so we're also following that story. There are demons, there are witches, there are warlocks. It is a magical world set in the real world, which I really love those kind of stories. This book just gave me all the things I didn't know that I needed. And if you are someone who doesn't necessarily love horror but likes fantasy elements with like demons and witches and things like that. I really, really do think this is a great read for you and something that you would really enjoy, because it's like a crime drama. There is so much magic in the story that I really loved, and so many demons that I really enjoyed. It was just a really fun read, and it's very short. It's like less than 130 pages, so it only took me about 2.5 hours to finish. And I put on what what I loved about this book is I put on like a 40s jazz station, and it really like set the mood for me when I was reading it. I absolutely loved it. I have a full vlog on this book also, if you're interested in my full thoughts and the vlog I did on it. It'll be linked below, you can check it out. But this was definitely one that I didn't expect to love, and it became one of my absolute. On the subject of ones that I didn't expect to love is one that came out of nowhere, one that is considered extreme horror and splatterpunk, and one of the most disgusting books I have ever read. That being said, it is a good fucking book. It is hilarious. It is scary. It is disturbing. It is gross as shit. And it is a fucking 5-star. And that is The Clown Hunt by Judith Sonnet. I actually follow Judith Sonnet on Instagram. She follows me back. She is so nice. She is always sending me her newest books. And I actually plan on doing a full vlog dedicated to her and her books, because the woman is a superwoman, okay? She writes and puts out her own books, and I mean, she writes books in like 15 days. It's crazy, okay? So we are definitely going to talk more about Judith Sonnet books in the future, because I do plan on doing a video strictly dedicated to her, and it's going to be awesome. But today we're going to talk about this one. This book, first of all, the first chapter of this book should get an award. I don't know what kind of award. There's got to be an award for like scary and gross. The first chapter, disgusting. Absolutely horrifying. Like, I could see the first chapter being turned into a movie. And I was reading it like, what the fuck is happening? Also, it deals with clowns, which are so inherently scary anyway. But the first chapter of this book is fucking brutal. So I want to start off, before I even like get into why I love this book. This is also not a wide recommendation. This book is not going to be for everybody, okay? It is gross. If you do not like body horror, extreme violence, extreme graphic depictions of violence, this may not be the book for you. It's fucking gross, okay? So I just want to start there. But if you like gross shit, this is it. Because not only is it gross, but there are moments in this book that are so fucking funny, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But in this book, we are following a group of vigilante clown hunters. They are pissed off about all of the scary and creepy violent clown attacks that were happening in 2016. Remember when clowns were standing outside of people's doors with like balloons and scaring them? They're just tired of clowns. They're sick of clowns, and they're killing every clown they come in contact with. So unfortunately for our group of misfit clowns in this book, they have been targeted by this vigilante group to go into the woods and have a battle royale style killing spree. Following our main character, Willow, who has my heart. I absolutely love Willow. He is such a good fucking character. First of all, he is a gay man who recently lost his boyfriend and his home, and he's kicked out, and he is staying in a hotel, and he goes to a bar by the hotel one night, and he runs into this man who tries to solicit him, and he ends up like engaging in some fun time with this man, and they become kind of friendly, and he lets him know that he is a sex worker and tells Willow maybe he wants to be a sex worker. So Willow becomes a sex worker and becomes friends with these guys, and they do parties, and they, go out and solicit men. And for one of these jobs, Willow is going to be a male stripper dressed as a clown. And I just want to say that with Willow being a sex worker, I love the way that Judith handled writing the characters that were sex workers. They were very likable. They were very realistic. They were very funny. You identify with with parts of their personality so easily. And as I've said this before, I am a sex worker. I just related to them so much, and they were just so likable. Willow is such a likable, strong male protagonist who also happens to be a sex worker, which we don't often see sex workers portrayed so well in media. So I just really truly appreciated that from Judith, and the way that she wrote his character and his fellow sex workers in this story. But Willow is doing a job one night where he is going to be a stripper, and he is dressed as a clown. And on his way to the gig, they are run off the road by this vigilante group. And Willow, a couple who are dressed as juggalos, a young influencer who is going to do a clown prank, and his, I guess, like, agent, and then a young girl who's 8 who is with one of the groups. They are all put into the woods, and the vigilante group tells them, run for your life because we're going to kill you. So that is how it starts. These people were all just randomly selected because they happened to be dressed like clowns when this vigilante group was out hunting. So that is the scene. The scene is set. We are in the woods, and they tell them, run for your life. And a whole bunch of shit ensues. Now, I do need to say this, that there's a lot of brutal death in this book, and everybody gets it. Everybody. Nobody is safe. The children are not safe. The pregnant woman is not safe. No one is safe. There's a very brutal scene where this is not funny. This is not funny, but the commentary of it is funny. So I will say that this death is particularly absolutely disgusting, and it involves a pregnant woman and an unborn baby. And I'm going to leave it at that, but I will say there's a joke made about a wishbone that I cried laughing at when I read it, and it was exactly the levity I needed for that particular scene in the book. So again, I'm just saying this book is not for everyone. Please don't go into this book thinking it's like Stephen King's It and Pennywise the Scary Clown. This is unlike any kind of clown book you have ever read, okay? This is absolutely disgusting and horrific. And I loved it. I loved every fucking page of it. Judith, amazing. So if you want to read something disgusting and disturbing, this is my vote. This is my vote. I loved it. My next book is another very short novella that I didn't know what to expect from it, but it just sounded very creepy, and I went into it like, this will be a decent read, and it ended up scaring the fuck out of me. It scared the shit out of me. I think about this book all the time too. I think about this book every time I go in Walmart, and it will forever be etched into my soul whenever I'm standing next to a small child. And that book is called Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. And first I want to say that I am also friends with Keelan Patrick Burke on Instagram, and he is so nice, and he puts out a lot of books. Also, he writes very quickly, and he has a lot of books out to go through. And I read 4 of his books this year, and I love them all. So this book was my favorite though. But he is very nice and very interactive on Instagram. So if you do enjoy his books, you should definitely go follow him. But this is my favorite, and this one, fucking terrifying. Now, I've said this before, but I will say it again if this is your first time watching any of my videos. My favorite horror trope is creepy children. Creepy kids, kids in general, scare me. They are the scariest thing to me. Being a parent is scary to me. No, kids terrify me. This book is about an interaction with a very unsettling child. And the way that this book unfolds just seems like so rooted in reality. Like, I could see myself doing exactly what our main character does, and it just going off the fucking rails. So our main character is planning to spend the day with his girlfriend. He's going to the store. He's going to Walmart to get some candy so they can watch movies, eat candy, and fuck all day. It's a beautiful Saturday. Everyone deserves that kind of Saturday. Unfortunately, it was not his lucky day. He had a bad day. So he's in Walmart. He's on the candy aisle, and he is trying to get some candy. All of a sudden, he hears a kid screaming bloody murder. He looks up, and at the end of the aisle, he sees this kid screaming, and everyone is just staring at the kid and the mom. And the mom has like a vacant look on her face. She looks really strange. She doesn't look healthy, and she's just staring at the kid with no reaction while the kid is screaming. So he decides, like a fucking idiot, let me go over there and, you know, try and calm the kid down. So he walks over, and he's like, hey, are you okay? And he's like trying to talk to the mom. He's like, hello, is everything all right? And the mom isn't responding to him, and the kid is still screaming. So he's like, you know what? This is none of my business. I'm leaving. Store manager comes over, is trying to talk to them and calm him down. And it ends up, he's like, this is crazy. I'm leaving. He leaves the store, and he's on the phone with his girlfriend, and he's like, I'm on my way home. That was weird. You know, he's sitting at a red light. All of a sudden, car smacks into the back of his car, and he gets into an accident. So he's like, I'll have to call you back. Hangs up on the girlfriend, gets out of the car. Guess who slams into the back of his car? The woman at the Walmart with the crazy kid. Okay? And all hell breaks loose from there. All of a sudden, we are thrust into this strange other world, and I don't want to give too much away, but this book just gets crazier and fucking crazier, and I swear to God, it will make you look at children on the aisles in Walmart differently. I'm telling y'all, every time a kid walks past me in Walmart, I'm like, not today, little kid. I run away. I run the other way. I don't have any time for it. Not today, devil's child. Will not happen. So if you are afraid of children like me, or if you would just like to be afraid of children, this is the book for you, because I have not been right since. I love this fucking book. It is scary, and I think it has really good commentary on not only like parents and how difficult it is to be a parent, but also for people who are childless, and how we interact with parents who have bad kids, or how society treats parents when they have children who are acting up. It just was very good commentary all around, and I really, really enjoyed it. So highly, highly recommend this one. It's also a very short read. I think it took me like an hour and a half, so get this one. My next book is actually the first in a series, and this is another book that I did not expect to love, but it became one of my favorite books of all time, not just of this year, but of all time. And that is Tales from the Gas Station by Jack Townsend. This book, this is a recommendation that I can make for everyone, because this book is so good and it is so funny. If you don't really like horror because it scares you, this is a perfect book for you, because it does have some horror elements, but it's more sci-fi comedy. And it is about a guy named Jack who works at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, and really weird things happen at this gas station, and really weird things are happening in this town. But it's a small town, and people have just kind of learned to ignore these things. But slowly but surely, more and more crazy, weird things are happening to Jack, and he can't explain. This book is just so weird and so funny. If you like things like Welcome to Night Vale, the podcast, if you like Courage the Cowardly Dog, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, these kinds of stories, then this is going to be a book that you love. This is so funny. It does have some horror elements, but nothing too scary. I would say it's more sci-fi comedy. And I enjoyed every fucking minute of this book. I will say you need to listen to the audiobook. Do not read it, because you are missing out on some hilarious narration by Mr. Creepypasta, who does such a good job with this audiobook, and it really just gives some depth to the story. I listened to it in my car for like 4 days while I was finishing it. It was so good. And it is part of a 4-book series. I've actually started the second book, and I've read another book that is in the universe that follows Jack, and I will be talking about that book in another video also. But that book is called Bedside Manor. So there is an entire series and universe based around Jack and this gas station. And I just think this was one of the most entertaining books I've ever read, and one of the most fun times I've ever had reading. So if you just want something fun and light, but also kind of creepy and some weird shit happening, I think this book is definitely for you. Think like Killer Lawn Gnomes, strange little hairy men from another universe, replica people, and a dark god that lives under a gas station. Like, if those sound interesting to you, then I think this could be it. So I highly, 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 highly recommend Tales from the Gas Station. And we've made it to my final favorite book of 2022. And this book, I think, is probably my favorite that I've read this year because it scared me the most. This book terrified me, okay? I was reading it in the dark. Not in the dark, but I had like the lights down, and I was like, I don't think I need to put the lights on because I'm a little scared. Now, granted, horror is subjective, and when I talked about this book on TikTok in January, people were like, I read that book. It wasn't scary to me. I wasn't scared. Give this guy a fucking medal. I hate when people do that. Like, okay, it wasn't scary to you. It was scary to me. Anyway, and that is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. This book was so creepy. It got under my skin. It made me so uncomfortable. But I will say, do not physically read the book. Okay, you can physically read it, but I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't listen to the audiobook, because the audiobook is incredible, and it also has 5 extra minutes that the book doesn't have that completely changes the ending, in my opinion. The audiobook is free on YouTube right now. I just checked, and it is under the title The Patient That Nearly Drove Me Out of Medicine. And it is narrated by Otis Jiry, who is a famous horror narrator, so that makes it even scarier. Again, the title is The Patient That Nearly Drove Me Out of Medicine. It's free on YouTube. Anyway, this book is so fucking scary. We are following this doctor who is transferred to a asylum in somewhere in New England, and he is assigned to this patient that has been in this hospital for over 30, and no one really knows exactly what's wrong with this patient because he displays a lot of different symptoms for different psychopathies, but he has caused almost every nurse that he's worked with to commit suicide. So this doctor is trying to figure out, like, what is the deal with him? Why has he been locked up for so long? Like, what's, trying to figure out his story. And it is so deeply unsettling. There's paranormal aspects to it. There is just the unsettlingness of of mental health and how it's handled. There is the scary side of just medicine in general. It is a very, very creepy book, and the narration on it, like I said, is just, it's so good and so terrifying. I mean, I was reading this at night and I was like, lights gotta go on, getting a little creeped out.
After that, Dr. A removed me and placed me on a mandatory paid psychological leave so that I could get therapy to recover from the experience. I spent a few more months in a private clinic before returning, and I was never assigned to interact with him again. After me, his next doctor spent a year trying to treat him. That ended when the doctor in question stopped showing up at work. It was found later, 2 days, when we filed a missing persons report. The police discovered him hiding in his house, suffering from what I gather.
And it's so fun. It's so fun to be scared in that way and to get like goosebumps and to be like, holy shit, what is this? And once we start getting to the climax and it really starts kicking off, it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the ending was so good. It was so good. I just love this book. This was definitely the scariest book I read this year. And there's not a lot of brutal violence. There is violence and there is some gore, but it's not extreme like some of the other books on the list. So I think if you want a creepy read, this is it. It will scare you without being too aggressive and violent. I just absolutely love this book. I actually want to do a reread of it soon because I enjoyed it so much. So yeah, that is it, my friends. That is my top books of 2022. The books I love the most and the books that I hope you will enjoy reading as well. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, if you would like to read any of these. Are these your style? Did you enjoy this video? That kind of thing. I am so sorry that it took so long to do this video. I promise I'm trying to get better about making YouTube videos. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. I appreciate your patience, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you find at least one new book to read in the coming weeks. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon.